All right, we're going to go ahead and get started today with our 5 steps to reassess and scale virtual Launchpad workshop with KeAnna Daniels and LeKeisha Grant. So thank you, ladies, for jumping in to run this virtual session for us. And we can just jump right into it. So I'll pass it over to you.
All right, sounds good. Hey everyone, I'm KeAnna here. I also go by Key, and we are going to jump right on in. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and let's see. So I am, again, KeAnna, project manager at Wright State Research Institute, also known as WSRI, where we assist aspiring and existing entrepreneurs on their entrepreneurial journey. I'm also a fellow entrepreneur here in the Dayton community. And now I'll allow my partner here, LeKeisha, to introduce herself.
Oh, I'm not muted. Sorry. I thought I was muted. Hi, good afternoon. My name is LeKeisha Grant. I am a small business advisor at the Miami Valley Small Business Development Center, an author, and I am also a fellow entrepreneur in the Dayton area.
So we wanted to host this webinar to talk about the elephant in the room, which is COVID-19, how it's impacted every business across the globe, and really has caused everyone to really rethink their businesses. And so, while this may be a pain for a lot of us, as consumers and customers, but also business owners, there is some silver lining in this situation, which is the innovation and creativity that can be a result from you all rethinking your businesses. So again, we'll go over some 5 easy steps that an entrepreneur, or if you're a community member, or if you have a project or an initiative that you can just use to reassess and hopefully scale your business. So we want to take a moment to reflect and have you ask yourself some questions about what's currently going on in your business. So the 3 questions are, how was your business doing before COVID-19? How's it doing during COVID-19? And then will your business be able to survive afterwards? So we want to give you guys a moment to kind of reflect on that. LeKeisha, if you have anything to add, jump on in.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in really quick. One of the reasons we want you to take the moment, or a moment rather, and reflect on these 3 questions is because as we're talking today, we're definitely talking about reassessing and what you can do to continue to grow your business during this time. So it's very, very necessary for you to also take a step back and see how your business was performing beforehand. And what changes can be made overall. Because yes, some businesses were honestly significantly affected by COVID, but we also have to be honest with ourselves and see what position was our business in before COVID. And did COVID kind of irritate an already open wound, or is COVID what cut you? So it's really, we want you to take the time and reflect over these 3 questions throughout the whole presentation to see where you feel your business falls in this.
So a few examples that we wanted to share of businesses that were created out of recessions or crises and things like that that you may be familiar with is General Electric. We're all familiar with this international conglomerate business that, in the 1880s was affected by that recession then and was able to come out of it on top. So this is one of the examples where there's a little bit of silver lining. Not only does this time where we're not running constantly overstimulated give us the time to really rethink our business, but it gives us a time to really brainstorm and go deep to think about what are some people's pain points that we can provide solutions to. as it pertains to like COVID-19. So there are some businesses here locally who have been able to rethink their businesses and provide hand sanitizer to people. And that wasn't what their original business was.
Right.
So it's really a great opportunity to think through and really brainstorm, what are some people's pain points during this time, and, how can we bounce back? Another example is General Motors. We are all familiar with that. Dayton, Ohio used to have several plants here. And again, they were a business that was created out of a recession and did really well, became $1 billion business. So we're going to get into step 1, which is assess your current inventory. And what that basically means is we really want you to create time and space, since you have it now, while we're all social distancing. We want you to create a list of everything in your current inventory. And that examples of that would be, what current products do you have? What services are you able to offer? What skill sets do you possess? And then does some of your employees or people around you possess? So like, what do you already have and how could you use it? And so an exercise for that would be, get some large poster notes that you can place all over your walls where you can see it and create those lists. You can do bubbles, you can do, 4 quadrants to kind of like, whatever your process is, just create space and time and use, some paper where you can post it up and just list it all out. Kind of go crazy with it, because you'll become more concise towards the end. And then ask yourself questions like, well, what knowledge, skill base, and prior experience do you already possess? Assess what you have the capacity to do, to create, and to control without any external forces. So like, that's kind of like the first step. What can you do on your own, and what could you offer if you had resources? And then once you kind of get it all out there, you may come up with 10, you could come up with 5, you could come up with 100. Choose your top 3. We want you to just kind of focus after you do this big brainstorming session. LeKeisha, I'm going to kick it back to you for step 2.
Got it. I'm in. So identify all channels for new business. So 2 ways I want you to think about the word channel. One, I want you to think about channel as in the actual different ways of which you can sell your current product. You can go to the next slide. You want to actually sell your product or service. That's one way that I want you to acknowledge channel. The other way that I want you to look at channel is in terms of your actual market as a channel. And is that part changing? So let's go back to the first one. So when we talk about channel in terms of ways of which you can sell, when I talk about that is, so if you currently have been strictly a brick and mortar business, is that the way that you have to stay? Do you have a product that can be sold online? Can we open you up some type of online presence? Can you move to an Amazon or an eBay or one of these marketplace platforms that are being growing increasingly? Walmart, Best Buy, eBay, all now operate in a very similar fashion, where even if you are not necessarily a true accepted business in Walmart, you can be put on what they call Walmart's marketplace. Is that an option for you? What does that look like? And you've traditionally been more of a B2C business. Do you have the ability to move into B2B? So let's, from a food perspective, restaurant perspective, or catering perspective, you've been supplying, one customer at a time. Do you have the possibility to now start serving an entire organization that might be open and doing lunches? Do you have the capacity to do that? Do you have the ability to do that? So when we're talking about channels, it's looking at all these new ways that you can get yourself out there. And it's also understanding, has your market had to shift because of what's going on in the country right now? And work from a limited resources mindset. It's this this time more than ever is really a time for you to take out professionally and personally, take out those invoices, take out that bank book, look and see where is your money going in your business. It's time to get lean. What do you need? So I have a saying when I'm talking to my clients around when they want new things. A lot of us like have shiny object syndrome. And one of my things that I say all the time is this purchase going to directly make you money? Or is this purchase going to save you money? Those are the first two questions you always have to ask. Now, do we buy things outside of that? Yes, all the time. But the more so point is to constantly get you into the habit of thinking of, do you really need this? Because there's always something new coming out, right? Like, and for those who sell products, those of us who sell products, we probably don't want our customers thinking like that. Because we might think that they might buy a little less, and that's not necessarily the case. The thing is we have to be just as smart with our money as our customers are, right? So if you selling, I don't know, cell phone cases, if you're most people are not going to spend their last 20 on a cell phone case if they need to eat. And we need to think about the expenses in our business in that exact same manner. Is this making us money, or does it just sound good to say that I have it? Am I utilizing it? And if you do feel like you really need it, are you utilizing it to the best of your ability? If not, it's time to get started using it. Do we have another slide for this one, Keith? Oh, this is me. This is both of us. I can kick this one off though. So fleshing out those avenues and the resources that are needed. So this is going into that channel of the target market and really defining who's in there. As you'll see over to the side, one of the best resources that we have locally is the Dayton Metro Library. They have inside of the library, when we can go back in libraries, they have business librarians that can help you, but their website is filled with, I don't even know how many databases. Key's pulling it up now, that you can access that will allow you to go in and reference and pull up various different things that you might need for your business from a secondary research standpoint. Being able to go to something like a reference you would say, so that you can see who's in your area. Being able to go to, let's see what's coming, let's scroll. Business Source Premier. That's another great resource. So just being able to go into here, you do need a library card to access some of these, not all of them, but some of them you do need library card access. But just being able to go in and figure out this information. Another thing is, in this time, this is a great time to engage with your clients. So use this time to get some primary data from a marketing perspective. Reach out, ask your clients to submit testimonials, anonymous survey, so that you can get some feedback around how people are feeling about your service, the product, the quality, all these things. These are the best times. Get out there and do a live Q&A. Get out there and communicate and do that primary research that oftentimes we just don't have time to do just because we're working inside of our business. Did you want to add?
Yes. I agree with all of that, and just like create a process that works for you, where you can really think through, like, what are the inputs, what is the process, what are the outcomes, and what are your goals that you're trying to accomplish. One of the things, the slide wasn't working, but in this time, we're really taking you guys back to the basics, which is, go back to the lean business model canvas. You can work your way through that to make sure that you're covering all the touch points that you need to in reassessing your business, or thinking about a new idea or a new innovation that you can create during this time. We're not necessarily telling you guys anything new. You guys already know it for the most part, but we just want to really remind you guys and encourage you that this is a great time to just really use the time that we have to think through thoroughly, almost like a business plan. Ask yourself these questions, really sit down and reflect on these things so that you can figure out, if your business is going to survive, or how can you make it survive. And then, one of the shameless plugs, we are all here to help you guys during this time. There's a ton of resources in addition to the Dayton Metro Library that can help you guys during this time. We have all had to pivot during this time. We're all virtual, and so we're all working through that. And so because of that, we have been able to scale somewhat some of our programming because we've now gone 100% virtual and we can reach more people. So it is possible that, you know, if you reassess and ask yourself some questions and get some people that you trust who can poke holes and make you think a little bit outside of your box, it's possible to create something new or pivot just a little bit to create something that is interesting and of a need to the people who need it most. And you have the ability to scale by using some of these online resources because you can reach people beyond like Dayton. So I just wanted to kind of add that, but we're going to move on to the next slide here, which is step 4. And that is, do you have the capacity and logistics in place? So, you know, when you're reassessing and thinking about your business or this new idea that you may want to start, do you need people, or can you deliver this by yourself? Can you deliver this product or service by yourself? Or can you maximize automated platforms? And then putting some processes in place to minimize room for error. So going back to the last slide where we talked about the inputs and the outputs and creating that process, again, we're going to keep saying this and you might get tired of it, but like now is the time to really take advantage of the time that we have because we are social distancing, we are staying at home, and we can get a little stir crazy, but if we utilize our time wisely, we can really start to create these processes and avenues and new channels to save our businesses and or to start new ones. LeKeisha, did you want to add anything here?
No, just to be sure, it's a part of the, honestly, going back to the taking inventory piece, is really understanding what you can do. We're in a different time, so there were things that, and we get into habits of saying that we don't have time for things, right? When the reality is because our time and our ability to do things has shifted, that we probably now have more ability to do things than we did before. And this is not me telling you that you should do all these things forever and always. But in terms of, again, going back to getting lean, if there's something that you can now do that you were not able to do before, this is definitely the time to do that and participate in that, so that when we go back to whatever our new normal is, and you begin to release that activity, you understand what you need to have happen for success. And one of the things I just want to put in here with this piece as well, from a capacity, is this time more than ever is a good time to engage, and understanding what your capacity is to do that in the long run. One of the things that I see is that people are okay with there kind of being not always being a face of a business, but every now and again they do want to see a person. So this will help you understand when you can show up and be the person that is accessible. I'm not saying every day, but maybe it's once a month, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a quarter. But this time can help you understand what capacity you even have to do that in your business.
So our last step is 5, and it's about creating the plan and timeline to execute. So now that you've kind of gone through steps 1 through 4, you've taken time and created space to think through, ask yourself some questions, to reflect, and then kind of like take your big ideas down to some more concise ideas, kind of your top 3, then creating some processes for, inputs to outputs, and then creating processes for that. Now it's time to create the plan and timeline to execute. And one of the things that, again, we're going back to the drawing board, we all know about them, is SMART goals. So be specific when you come up with your goals and your action steps. And so some questions that you might want to ask yourself is, what exactly needs to be accomplished? And why do I want to accomplish this goal? So constantly asking yourself these questions is helping you to not just put out a general statement that may be super vague where you can't actually achieve it. The next step on the SMART goals is measurable. How will you know if you've succeeded? How much change needs to occur? And then how many actions or cycles will it take? And these are just a few questions that you might want to ask yourself, but there's a ton of other questions in these buckets that you can ask yourself that may not be on this list. And then attainable. Do we have the resources to achieve the goal? Again, we talked about that earlier. Is, what resources do you currently have in your inventory? And then outside of that, based on what you want to do, what do you need? Is the goal a reasonable stretch? Or is it within our means? Is the goal likely to bring success? So LeKeisha touched on this before. If it's not going to bring you success, if it's not making money, and if it can't be bought, ask yourself, what is the purpose? And then when you go down to relevant, some questions you would ask yourself is this a worthwhile goal? And kind of like maybe part two of that is, if you're thinking about right now, what pain point are you feeling for people, for the target audience that you're looking at? Will it be meaningful to the management or the team? And if that's yourself, or if you actually have a team, will it be meaningful to you guys? Because it has to be meaningful for you guys to actually be incentivized to do the work. And then, can we commit to achieving this goal? A lot of times we all kind of in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, we see this kind of on a day-to-day basis where we have people who want to start businesses and they don't really have the commitment to achieve the goal. And on the entrepreneurial journey, commitment is one of the most important things because it's going to be challenging, as you all know. And then time bound. What is the deadline for reaching the goal? And when will we begin taking action? So this right here, both LeKeisha and I, we have worked with our clients on setting realistic, actionable goals. And this is something I think that hits home for the both of us. And when we speak to our clients is, it's okay to set goals, but how realistic are your goals as it pertains to your actual lifestyle? If you're a person, for instance, who's a caregiver, you have children, you're trying to start this business, can you have to be very realistic about the time that you actually have and can put towards this. So creating really realistic goals is important to you actually achieving them. And then one of the other things that I really love to tell people that actually works is when you create these goals and these action plans with the timelines for reassessing your business and creating something new or pivoting, make sure that you can identify a couple of people, maybe at least one person, but maybe 2 to 3 people that can hold you accountable and be your support system during this time. Because again, the journey gets difficult and we need sometimes to be able to vent. We need people who can, sometimes we can feel ourselves with doubts and fears and things like that. Or just there could be a point on the journey where there's hardship after hardship. And we just need somebody to show us hey, you've actually made a little bit of progress. Just stick in there. You need people who can hold you accountable to make sure you get it done, but also to keep you in high spirits and to support you on the journey. So LeKeisha, would you like to add anything on there for that?
Yeah, I'm gonna add a couple of things. So one thing with the accountable. So it's funny, but it's not. Know your people who you're asking to hold you accountable. And not even from a business aspect. We don't need it. This is not the time for a yes man. This is not the time for the person who, no matter what you do, is going to be yes, do that. This isn't the time for them. This is the time for the person who's really going to sit there with you, comb through and say, have questions about this. They're going to ask questions. They're going to ask you questions you don't like. I use the example of when you're trying to not spend money or not eat out. You don't usually want your accountability partner to be the person who you go out to eat with. Y'all are going to struggle and find every excuse you possibly can. Your accountability partner is going to be your friend who cooks dinner every night, right? Like it sounds good for your accountability partner to be your friend who needs to go walking with you. But again, you all will find excuses. You need to talk to your friend who works out every day. They might get a little annoying, but sometimes when we think accountability, we think about people who are wanting to do the same things. Sometimes from accountability standpoint, you need the person who's already there or closer than you are versus the person who's in this struggle with you. Because then it's easy, very, very easy to fall back into old habits. So that's where I wanted to go with that. And then commitment. I wanted to just chime in on the commitment piece again, because honestly, that's key. Before you can do everything else we said today for the last, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. If you're not committed to this at the end of the day, if this is not real for you, it's not going to happen. So before you do any of the things that we said, I want everybody who's listening to have a conversation with themselves and ask yourself, are you honestly committed to moving forward, scaling, starting, wherever you are in yours? Are you genuinely committed to that? Because if you're not there, this journey entrepreneurship is already a journey. It's already a hard one. But if you're not committed to this thing, it's going to be that much harder. So I do encourage you to ask yourself that question as well.
In this, it concludes our presentation. However, I did want to just kind of add on. Some people may hear this and think, in the current times, I don't really have the mental space to do any of this, right? And I would caution you guys and encourage you that before you kind of jump into these 5 steps and reassessing your business and things like that, I would encourage you guys to kind of like create space for you to really clear your minds and get yourself into a positive mental space where you have the capacity to even think and go through these exercises. Because like you may get a different outcome if you don't. And we for sure want to be sensitive to, all of us are going through this times, and it's the first of our time. We've never been through it. We don't quite know how to handle it. And so we want to be sensitive to that, and not just like kind of throw these things at you guys. Because we do understand that there's people who are having some real difficulties in like trying to like even just stay positive. So we want you to like take some time first before diving into this to just really kind of clear your minds, maybe go on a walk, journal if you want to, just kind of like just get a good solid ground before you go into kind of analyzing things, because we want you to be clear when you exercise it so that it's actually beneficial to you and your business, and what you're trying to achieve. I know that, business for a lot of people may be really tough right now. And so to see kind of like the silver lining could be difficult. But again, we want you to just kind of do this on a clear mind so that is a positive experience, because actually walking through these steps, LeKeisha and I both have gone through them for various projects, work in our own businesses, and we have seen results. And so we do want you guys to also see positive results in like rethinking your business and creating new ideas and innovations during this time. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there and provide a little bit of encouragement, because that's kind of like who I am, what I do. And I wanted to, send love and light to everybody. And want you guys to know that we're all in this together. And please don't hesitate to reach out to all of the people who are on this call, because again, the Dayton entrepreneurial ecosystem is a very robust community of mostly free resources. A lot of them are free, and can help you guys start businesses, or if you're already in business, we can help you kind of rethink your businesses too. And so you're not alone. There's a lot of help out here, and we just hope that you can benefit from this presentation and all the other ones that have gone virtual. And that's all I got. And so we will go to our last slide, which is, thank you for listening to us. Again, we hope it was beneficial. And if you have, any questions for LeKeisha and I about the what we shared and just kind of in general, please put it in the chat.